today we talk about can intelligent automotive automation elevate pharma? So, see, everybody's talking about artificial intelligence. So that's AI. But today we are talking about IA, intelligent automation. So, I mean, today and right now I got Dr. Ranjana, who's always been quite a supportive person in this industry and a veteran in the pharma industry. And of course, Parag, who would give his insights as a head of organization. I would ask the first question is, how do you see intelligent automation as a tool for enhancing quality management? Yeah, you can start, Parag.
Yeah. So as Mr. Rajiv said, that the intelligent automation. So the technology and the intelligent automation per se actually is experiencing the push and pull, both sides. Because in the current arena, as Mr. Desai and Mrs. Mehta recently, showed us some data and some insights. Of course, the pharmaceutical sector was late in, taking a leap towards the automation and Industry 4.0, Quality 4.0. But of late, the speed has been phenomenal. This is actually creating a situation whereby the people who are engaged in the manufacturing processes and other processes are no more, interested in doing the mundane and the, redundant jobs. So it is creating a pull, a kind of situation for the pharmaceutical, sector. On the other hand, the stringent quality norms and the regulatory norms is mandating the pharmaceutical companies to ensure the zero defect, processes. And the errors happening because of the human intervention is the biggest issue nowadays in the qualities arena. Ms. Pathak can ponder upon more on this, but all in all, I would say that no one can stop the intelligent automation. The last but not the least is the nicely depicted term is intelligent automation, not just automation, because one has to ensure the best fit into the overall situation of the organization, the product market metrics that we are flourishing today, and what is the real need of the customer or the patient. With that, if you design the automation policies and priorities, I think it makes more sense.
Okay, Dr. Ranjana.
Okay, so thank you for the question, Rajiv. Very insightful. I think before I answer any questions, I'd like to set the stage. Why are we talking about all this automation technology, so on and so forth? So we all are in a race. All of us are running, and running as fast as we can. And it's only the one who can make the finish line without falling is the winner. The others are all laggards. And I think now, with technology, with intelligent automation, and all of the other things that we heard the previous speaker speak, we have to adopt, we have to embrace. I don't think we have a choice. Otherwise, you're going to become redundant. I like what the previous speaker said, is in our house, we can keep beautifying it. But it's us to decide how much to beautify. Which technology should we be adopting? Which works for you? What was good for him may not be good for me, and vice versa. And I think it applies to all of us sitting in the audience as well.
Thanks, Dr. Ranjana. Of course, we'll wait for Vipul, so let's see when he joins. But again, from the point of view of both of you, I mean, both of you handle different areas. But at your current vantage point, how do you look at current quality management practices, and what are the pain areas in the data access, the validation, and also what information is available to take, say, short-term and long-term decisions?
We in Otsuka has a very different situation. We are a Japanese MNC in India. So when we go to the Japan and other, European, US entities, we see a very high level of automation. As against that, in India, we have moderately low automation. So I have experience of both the, situation where the pros and cons exist. However, if you ask me in the current situation in India, if we speak, fundamentally this today's topic is focused on the quality management. So I just would like to simplify into testing, monitoring, and documentation. If you, peculiarly see the quality management systems. So there are ways and means to upgrade the testing. It is happening today. And the camera, the sensors, the HPLCs, and plethora of tools are available in the testing arena. Apart from that, if you say monitoring, the real-time monitoring has taken a huge leap now. The most important thing which I observed recently in the last 5 years is that earlier we used to try to protect our data from going to the external world, whereas now the pharmaceutical companies are connecting their machines to the OEM's softwares. What is the benefit is that it clearly gives you the predictive and the preventive maintenance. At the same time, the possibilities of the failure in the manufacturing process can be reduced. The OEMs are well versed with their machines, which earlier the kind of a culture prevented us to share the data to our external world. So this kind of changes are coming in the overall systems. You see the LIMS and the QMS, the entire processes for the quality management is becoming paperless. The track and trace is taking a clearly front seat now. That nobody wants a huge load of papers in terms of the dossiers and the analysis of the kappa and kind of the things. And last but not least, again, the AI, the robots are now trying to suggest the quality team in various companies with respect to the benchmarking, the regulations and the practices across the globe in certain kind of issues that they try to find answers to. So this is the current situation as per me in the automation in the quality management.
Thanks, Parag. Dr. Ranjana, how would you decide what are the pain areas in the current practices, and how is data access and the validation being used for short-term and long-term decision making?
Thanks, Rajiv. The pain area is we have so much data. We have more data than we know what to do with. We have loads and loads of data, and everybody's collecting data. But very few people looking at the data. I just want to pick up on the testing point. Only 30% of the time analysts are testing. The rest is documentation, getting glassware, getting procedures, getting this, getting that. So the real value is only 30%. The rest is all, I hate to say this, but non-value added. That's where, if we can automate or we can digitize, I am a big fan of automation plus digitalization because they go hand in hand. The testing, the QMS, when you're talking about the QMS, the challenges are that some of our test methods are still very archaic. And we have two scenarios, right? Either we are fearful of new technology, we are fearful of doing dissolution. How many chemists in the room? Okay, only one, okay. Oh, lovely, so we have three. So sometimes the testing, the old methods, if we continue using those old methods, we're not going to get further. And we will have more documentation and we won't know what to do with the documentation. So I think the pain area is how do we connect the dots? I like what you said, is can we connect our equipment in such a manner that I know what's happening in C2. I know what's happening during analysis. Most importantly, I know what's happening during production. So I can stop a batch. If a batch is going haywire, I can stop that. I don't have to wait till the end, take the sample, send it to QC, waste their time, and then the batch fails. So I think the pain area is we're not fully adopting yet, and the reasons are vast. You know, sometimes it's cost, sometimes it's fear, sometimes the time is not right, because you said validation. We were, in fact, just yesterday having a discussion on smart documentation, and then one of my team members said, oh, but you know, this can't be GMP. I'm like, why can't it be GMP? The limitation is in our own mind. The predicate rules will apply. So take that, and this is where it takes some learning and some extra work we have to do, is take that rule, see how can you make it apply to you so you can use this artificial intelligence and ML. It's not so easy to adopt it because validation is something that you have to really decide how you're going to validate it. So we can keep on talking, but since Vipul is here, I will let him
Yeah, thanks, Vipul bhai.
catch
Vipul
on
bhai,
with the
thanks for
question.
joining. I know
Oh.
you got tied up with some other important activity, but we were talking about the current practices in the quality management, and what are the areas that you feel are the pain areas which need to be taken up, and they are the ones which actually help you either avoid or minimize your ways of taking decisions in the short term and the long term. So your thoughts around this.
So like what Ranjana mentioned, I echo that as you know that data and data, and then like the big companies, we manufacture more than 1,000 batches, more than 600 batches. So, and then you know that no batch, like if you have the first time right, but we still have the QMS, we still have the laboratory errors, we still have the deviations, still have the OS. So all this quality, what we are being generated, obviously as a compliance and regulatory requirement we file, we want to do the deviations and we want to do the investigations, and then investigation we have to see the historical data and we need to do what not. And then if you see the one complete investigation, how many pages, you know that? More, I think more than 100, 200, 300 pages. And out of that, many things may not be relevant also, but still the regulator asks. So in such cases, like I agree what the Ranjana and then everybody discuss about, the digitalization and automation is a key factor. Like knowledge which is gained during the times in over the period, that knowledge which is there is part of the if you build in our digitalization, I guarantee, and then my experience and which we have worked on, that if I go and see my out of specification, my majority out of specification into the manufacturing, let's say the IR product, is almost 80% time of similar. So if I gain that knowledge and put in my systems, so that the whosoever is doing the investigation is really helpful for that knowledge. If I club this type of the dosage forms, club this type of the incidences, club this type of the outcome, this will give you the benefit of the investigator and the reviewer that the same language is coming. Like if I write something, if you write something, he writes something, it is very different way because we are not medical writers, right? We are the technocrat. We are trained to do writing in our own system or like, but the similar way of writing, if we build that as a let's say cause a golden writing, so which we have tried to do that, and then we build in our systems and we give them some drop downs, and then they use that. So 70% of the time, the similar type of nature can be used, and then 30% time, obviously, we have to go into the investigation, do the hypothesis, negative hypothesis, do the is a firm root cause, and then the kappa and those. So the point coming to the point that the pain area currently is that the expectation of the investigators, expectations of the compliance is that you have to see that historical data, past history, how many repeat, how many times it is done, and then that kappa, whether that kappa was implemented, then why that kappa is not effective now which kappa you are building. So all this put together is really a pain area. So all this knowledge which we have gained over the last 10 years, we built in our systems and we use those data and leverage the data to do, it will be more beneficial for us.
Vipul said. I think we are at a funny time right now because we have investigators from various agencies that are not used to new technology. And then you have investigators who like new technology. So when you have an inspection, if you get one type, then they would like, okay, let's go straight to the computer and let's look at the data, let's look at everything. And then there are others who don't want it. So that's another thing that we have to factor in. You know, that's another, I've experienced both. Yeah, yeah. And the ones who are, because FDA is also struggling, is how do we bring everybody to speed so they get a full understanding and they don't have that fear factor that, oh, what did the firm do? So that's another thing that we have to keep in mind as we are building towards automation.
And most important is the people who are explaining the technology, if it is there. If there is a point which is not being able to elaborate, I think the auditors also say that, oh, has this been done in a foolproof manner or it's half-hearted? So that also creates a lot of issues in terms of the way your technology also gets implemented. And if they find some observations, then the management becomes jittery about should we do it or should the original technology continue?
That's a very important point. And I think all the tech people, there are a lot of tech people here also. For us, like for Vipul and me, words matter. So if you're writing the code and you're writing something and you use a word, let's say delete, it's perfectly okay for you, the ones who are writing the code. But for us, we have to struggle to explain that doesn't mean that I have deleted data, I have done something shady. No, everything is there. But that use of words, so when you talk about pain, every little thing matters. Thank you.
That is where the point here is that, like we call as a AI, but we also want to this opposite way, like we have to go, that is intelligent automation, right? That is the things which we should work. Like, I'm not giving the very buzzwords for this, very simple way. Like I mentioned about the knowledge, what we have gained, we put in the automation. The workflow processes, like how many signatures we are doing, more than 10, why it is required? Once we are do the automation, not required. So simplification also is one of the things which we need to really see. Once I am doing the digitalization, why 10 signatures are required? When I'm doing that knowledge-based automation, why the processes are required so lengthy? So we really think, and we are working on this as an industry.
I think I remember example where there were electronic documentation practices, like electronic logbooks were being introduced by a company, but the practice in the past was to really have a review done with a hard copy. So they took a printout of those electronic versions and still continued to generate papers. So that GMP actually turned out to be, generate more papers.
So Rajiv, don't be shocked. A lot of that is still happening.
Still happening, yeah.
Because it's fear. You don't believe that digitization. You don't believe that automation. Then why do it? You just wasted boatload of money of the company. So I think we have to get out of that and get on with the present times. And if you do automate or you do have digitalized, as Vipul said, you don't need so many signatures. The regulation only requires 2. The doer and the checker.
And one more thing, like batch records, like
You should never put us together.
just last point.
Okay. Rajiv is the one who's asking questions here.
No, I'm just supporting you.
Thank you.
Here, the one classic example, when we deal with the regulator, we have communicated with them. Can we do the scanning of the batch record and put in the PDF copy, which is not editable, and can we do that? They said no. Your primary source of data is your batch record. Copy, period. You have to. If your primary source of data, like Raju mentioned, the electronic data, which is the primary source, then you can do that. But primary source data, what you have written, is a primary source. You can digitalize, but I want to see the copy. So that is also reality that we need to see.
So you heard both Vipul Bhai and Dr. Ranjana talking about the pain areas within the quality management implementation, from moving from the current practices to the newer technologies is still a big concern, and we are not only worried about the way it has been implemented, but the way it is explained to the external agencies when they come in. So I asked this question to Parag, at your level as a CEO. When you look at, I'm sure that you are more interested in the strategic oversight and also the operational efficiencies. So do you think that you will be encouraging more of these technologies, and how would these changes be effective for the current and the future times?
I think this is inevitable. And when the things come up to the CEO level, of course, the veteran people, the head of the departments, the strategists have already screened it out actually. So I am not that kind of person who would like to, put it down. But in general, let me tell you one thing that responsibility at a CEO level is to ensure the ROI. So this always remains, whether they speak it or not, but they would like to look at the proposals from point of view of tangible or intangible ROI. And if I have to see some proposals with respect to this kind of automation that comes up for approval, I would like to see more from point of view of the simplicity and the scalability of the automation. What is the best fit in the current processes? And then, of course, the spreadsheets have to speak the payback period in terms of the capex and the opex. But at the same time, generally I have seen in my experience and whatever I have learned across, that generally such proposals come during two times. One is when you have really encountered some huge defect, and as a matter of kappa or as a matter of self-introspection, the company as a whole, they stand up to the, go to the next level of technology automation. And the second is when it is a greenfield project and you are really planning something long term in which you do not want to fall back on, manual systems or weak systems, that such kind of robust, technology comes to the fore. And during the both events, I think the main thing which comes up in my mind is why we are doing this right now, and how the things which we are trying to automate as a piece of the overall process is going to connect with the overall, is going to integrate with other things. So with that, I think the ROI calculation can be done by the CEO office, and should
Can I
be.
just mention something on the ROI? While you're digitalizing and automating, there are some things you cannot get an ROI because there is no ROI for compliance. You keep on calculating millions. Like people say limbs, I got limbs, so I should have less chemists. Hello, no. Many of my people who are using limbs, they say it's very difficult, cumbersome. But you have limbs to prevent you from getting into errors and getting into data integrity and all that other stuff. How are you going to put a cost on that? You cannot. So I only said this because I have a CEO sitting on my left, So when his people come to him and he's asking for ROI, compliance, you can't put a price tag on that. Sorry, I'm speaking for my industry friends
But
who are not CEOs.
Allow me to quickly answer you,
Okay.
because I am also from the finance background.
Oh, even better.
Fortunately, to answer your question, is that it is a wisdom of the finance department actually, that how they are able to support this quality department and the technical development department. This comes when you are not able to identify ROI. Why? Because there are several assumptions. Something may go wrong, and at that time, every ROI is going to come, Something doesn't go wrong, and you may say, oh, this was useless. But the finance department is in a situation whereby they can, extrapolate some, probable situations around the organization, considering the macroeconomic data prevailing in the industry, and with respect to your repository systems, and then they can support the, decision making.
So I think each one of you over here are a big support for the automation technologies. But how do you see the current workforce, which is the actual user of these technologies? Are we really ready for implementing this? Do we have the workforce? What needs to be done to make sure that they are ready to take up these technologies as we bring it in our system? So Vipulbhai, you can start and maybe...
It's a great question and another pain area for us. Are we ready? Frankly speaking, we are not ready. And then why I'm saying that upfront, that the newer and newer technologies are coming. Newer processes are coming, and newer expectations are coming. So we are still into the old age. The cultural change which we are talking about is in the quality. We are not discussing about any cultural change into the automation. Still, I've seen, I'm just giving my recent example in the recent visit in the US and one of the friend. he was explaining about the Tesla, and Tesla is a self-driven car, and still the my other colleagues, they are using like the normal car. The point of view is that if I want to use the Tesla as a automated car, self-driven car, I mean, it's an automated car without the driver. So there's a technology. Then you require that mindset, you require that trust, you require that confidence, you require that skills to do that. So here also the same thing, like as you know that ultimately the technology and automation and then are going to uh, be used specially by the frontline managers like the operator or the supervisors. How many times those people are involved into the URS? How many times they are aware that this software is coming to them? How many times we have understand their point of view that if we want to put that, whether it will be helpful for them or it will be troublesome. So the first and foremost is the cultural change, the mind shift. Second thing, their involvement. And third point is that because of what Ranjana mentioned, the various regulations and their expectation, the process becomes so complicated. If we work with them and make it more easy, then it becomes less complex and more user friendly. And then if you involve them, it will be more useful. Like I'll just go and train the people under the board and then check, okay, this is how I don't think it is going to work. We have to use them into the user requirement specification. We have to use them, and that is what we do, that all the PQ of any software or any automation is done by the users, not by the QA or not by the manufacturer. So the answering to your question, Raju, we are not yet ready, but this is the process by which we can improve the cultural change and mind shifts.
Absolutely. Transition from the existing methodologies to the new ones. I think their support, their confidence, and their insight inputs will definitely make sure that this implementation becomes easy. Dr. Anjana?
So I would agree with Vipul. I don't think we are ready, but when will we be ready? So I think there are methodologies to get the workforce ready, and they have to feel comfortable with it. I think before we even ask about the workforce, we should go back and see what is the problem. As you said, pain area. Where is the pain? And if I want to alleviate that pain and I'm going to get some technology, then people are going to be more apt to be using it. So I like that idea of take the user, get what's required, and then say, okay, if I get this, if I get a Tesla, you don't have to worry about this and that, then we will have higher adoption. Because I think we don't have the adoption rate that we want to, because people do not want to give up what they have. They do not want to leave their Excel. They do not want to leave this. And it's a challenge. So it's something for us to consider before we bring something new, fancy, shiny. We must also know who is going to use it. Otherwise, you're not going to get your ROI, you're not going to get adoption, and it'll be a Lamborghini in your garage, just sitting.
Yeah, Parag?
Yeah, just quickly give you the answer that, according to me, this is a cultural matter, correct, and it's a top-down approach. However, your team will have always 20-80 proposition for change. Anywhere you go, this is not just about automation. Anything you do, the 20% are highly excited to change, 80% are a little bit not excited, but it's the management's prerogative to take everyone together. And the training comes as a big part of this, this thing, to adopt the technology change, to bring automation, use automation aptly. And I think the third point is the iterative. This is an iterative process. Just one time, you fail to get the answer or to get the result or the desired outcome, and you just leave it, then this kind of change will not come. I am not going to comment whether we are ready or not ready, because I feel the Gen Z is much smarter than us. Wow. They can comment on us, but I think it's not the other way around. But in my view, this is an iterative process, and if you handle it diligently, patiently, consistently, then I think the change will be quite visible in the next decade in India.
Thanks. Parag, I do agree with you that the current generation is definitely ready for the technology because, the factories where they work are the only place where they continue using pens. But as they go outside, I don't think they use pens. Everything is done on their smartphones. And they are much more tech savvy than the earlier generation. But this question is again to Dr. Anjana and to Vipul Bhai. That even though we are aware of so many technologies coming up, so many technology partners are there, we want that to happen. I mean, how do you actually prepare the budgetary allocations for these technologies? And what kind of justifications you give for the management to really convince them about implementing it? Because some of the technologies may be totally new, may not have been implemented, or maybe you are the ones who are like, creating a proof of concept. So is this something that, we would like to understand? How would you prepare a justification for these proposals?
So I will just start with the example. As you know that it is always difficult to create the budget and convince the management. But it's not difficult if you have the proof of concept. So I will give one example without taking the name of the product. We have used in our one of the R&D the Blaze probe, which is a PET tool, where we can identify that at what exact temperature, at what exact stirring parameter, and what exact time I am changing my form A to form B. Now, the form B is a huge requirement outside India. And then it is, it's very difficult to manufacture. When we have taken this proof of concept in my R&D, we have developed that, we have provided, and then it's expensive tools. But when we have given them the proof of concept, it was, without any saying, it was approved. So we need to see that how the beneficiary is a business point of view, that is one point. That is clear. Now, indirect. I will give you another example, like I mentioned about the limbs, wherein we want to do the, let's say, the exception-based reviews. So we want to add on something into the limbs where that software will give you the exception. Now, as everybody knows, that when I want to do the review, I want to review the thousands of data, even though it is a software. So if I do this review, the number of reviewers which are reduced by 40% or 50%. So I have to just, that software will pop me up, okay, there is an exception, which you need to do the review. So that is another example. So if we do like this, that okay, how it will be benefited as a compliance, first and foremost is a compliance, and as a business, then I think there is no issue to discuss with the management for this. And third point is that the hidden issues, like hidden benefits. So many a times the indirect tangible benefits may not be seen. But if we do this, like let's say the QMS systems or something else system, other system or manufacturing systems, like we have the recently this training-based allocation to the compression machines. Like there is no just there is a requirement that the train operator or qualified operator has to go there, but it can be done manual. But now we have done the automated. Now there is a hidden benefits that if somebody will ask that unqualified operator has used this, can be a compliance. So these are the three ways of working which we would prepare our own justification, proof of concept to go to the management to take them.
Yeah, Dr. Ranjana, your thoughts?
So I'm a firm believer is we should fix our roof when the sun is shining. And that's where we get the information with regards to what should we do and what are the benefits we're going to get. And I think if we take that in mind, is I'm going to do ABC, because if I do ABC, I'm going to be smart, I'm going to be using my resources efficiently, I'm going to use people to be thinking rather than doing commodity work. So I think if we are smart about it, we will get the budget. And of course, if we have Mr. Swadhya, he already so savvy, it'll be not a problem.
I think he did mention about the justification and also how the ROI is not looked at from the tangible benefit, but also the intangible benefits. And both you and Vipulbhai spoke about the compliance, which is more important in the pharma industry. And you may not require to say that whether this cost can be recovered in 2 years. It's a long-term benefit for the company. And I think in the pharma, we should be very mindful about these things. I think all of you are very much keen to have automation. You have spelled out the concerns. You know that the next generation is able to take up this automation, provided you give them that kind of environment. And Vipul Bhai very clearly mentioned that if you make them part of this decision-making process, I think it becomes very easy for us to implement, and then becomes a real win-win situation to move into next orbit of our technology. So thank you so much for your time and your insights. I think I'll leave it to some questions from the audience. And if you have anything to add to what want to ask, maybe a couple of questions.
Sure. We can have a couple of questions. So if anyone has one, we just request you to raise your hand. Otherwise, of course, okay, we have the gentleman out there. Of course, we'd request your name, designation, and a concise question to your speaker you're directing.
Yeah, I'm Mitlesh, and I am from Inventia. So my question is related to automation only. That is the two things I think we can discuss more. One is the implementation of non-destructive technique for analysis, and second is continuous manufacturing process. These two is, I think, very important and helpful to pharma industry. So I need your opinion and how to go ahead this. We done for some of the products this process, and is very effective and very useful. Thank you.
So he's asking about the non-destructive techniques of analysis and continuous manufacturing. So where are we in terms of implementation? Is that right?
I think continuous manufacturing is wonderful, but my advice would be do it for where you have high volume. Otherwise, you will not get your ROI. It's fantastic. And non-destructive tests, I think if we can innovate and have those kind of tests, it would be absolutely fantastic. But it will also help in your retained samples. How many samples do you have to keep? You may not need as many. So I think both are great ideas and difficult to do and very expensive. I can tell you about the continuous manufacturing. It's extremely expensive. Sounds savvy, sounds wonderful, but it's expensive. So again, am I getting my ROI, or is it my Lamborghini sitting in the garage? Non-destructive.
The non-destructive is the second part. That's the second part.
Right, non-destructive. He asked two parts.
Yeah.
So non-destructive, if you can do it, why not? But how many are there? How many tests are like that? Most of our tests are destructive, except if you bring new technology, sensors, fiber optics, and whatever is there in the market.
So we have the non-destructive test which we have implemented and approved by the FDA. That is the containability of the tablets. And then we have non-destructive also for the blend. So here, the mindful of this, the containability of the tablet by the non-destructive tests by the NIR, we have done that for the 7 products. We have implemented, and then it's CB30 we have filed and it's approved. The issue here is that any of your major excipients source change or load change, you have it. Because then you have to continuously upgrading your library about those excipients where your endpoint of the non-destructive test of this is getting not compromised, it is shifted, and then it become a. So it is possible, but it is also the smart that wherever, or you have to fix your vendors, or you have to fix your lot. So lot to lot variation also is creating issues, and then the vendor change also is creating. I know that you are not going to change your vendor for your API, but excipients obviously you are going to change. So there is one point. Second point is that when you have to have the very specific environment, we have to specific in the blender. Once we do the NIR, and then the endpoint is based on the real time situation, there is also the issue. So it's possible, we have done that, but these are some of the hidden points which we need to work on.
So thank you so much, Vipul Bhai and Dr. Anjana. Just to give you a quick update, since me and Mr. Belapure represent IPA, Indian Pharmaceutical Alliance, we have some documents being published and which is available free of cost. I mean, there's no cost to it. You can always download. And there's one very good document on PAT, Process Automation Technology. Vipul Bhai and Dr. Anjana, they themselves and their team members have been part of this initiative to contribute. And I would encourage people to have a look at this website. You'll get a lot of inputs about what are the things coming up, and this will be helpful for your company as well.